Pirita. Welcome to Conscious Revolution podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. I'm super excited to have you, honestly, because this is a topic which I have been struggling so of late, and I'm so happy to actually have crossed paths with you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Excited.
Amazing. So, yes, we are going to be talking about how to sync our menstrual cycles to become more productive, to perform better, to be the conscious leaders that we all, I think, are awakening to be, especially women right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to know what has been your story, what has guided you to kind of walk this path and explore deeper about the relationship between our modern lifestyle and our menstrual cycles. How is your story?
Well, my story goes many years back because I've always been a very hardworking person and someone who's kind of like expected myself to perform the same and be as productive every single day. And of course, when you're really hardworking and you're a perfectionist and you kind of like really go after your goals and then you expect yourself to be as productive every day, that can very easily lead to burnout and being just very exhausted and so on. Um, and I've always been a person who kind of like pushes myself. And in our society, maybe not from 2020 onwards, but at least in the past decade, I think women have had this belief that we need to be very masculine in order to be very successful. So I think the biggest thing for me has been to realize that I can actually allow myself to have days when I take it easier and actually like tune into my body and listen to what my body is telling me every single day, because menstrual cycle, the monthly cycle shifts our body all the time, every day. So just really listening to my body and noticing that, oh, I'm actually not as productive every day, and that's completely fine. And I don't have to push myself, and it's completely fine to, trust my intuition, and really lean into that more feminine side of myself, and also allow myself to rest when I need to, so that I can actually perform well when it's time for that.
Yeah, and then I think somewhere you said that you realize that you don't have to be as productive every day because you are a woman who has these different moods, these different cycles. And so I would really want you to shed a little more light on how do you think are we different from men in this regards, and how we work and how we operate and how we produce and get creative, like how our energy levels are different from men.
Yeah, absolutely. So the modern society is basically built on men's energy, and that's the like typical 9 to 5. And basically, men follow this testosterone cycle. So their energy level and hormone levels are higher in the mornings, and then slowly decreasing towards the evening. So it makes sense to start work in the morning and be productive, and then sort of start to cool down or unwind towards the evening. But we women or menstruating people, we also follow that 24-hour cycle, but we also have our inner monthly cycle, or the menstrual cycle. And what that means is that if we see the menstrual cycle as it starts from the first day of your period. So when your period starts, that's usually when you feel probably a little bit less energetic, not that productive, probably not so confident. And that's also when your hormone levels are at their lowest. And then when you move towards the end of the period, and from the menstruation phase towards the follicular phase, or the spring phase of your cycle. So your inner spring, when you're starting to feel more energy, starting to feel a little bit more creative. The spring energy of a season of the year as well, when you're creating more, and just starting to open outward and expand. So that's, for example, a really good season to make plans and so on, and move from that stillness of the winter of menstruation phase. And then at around the way of your cycle when you ovulate, or average woman's cycle is about 28, 29 days. So that would be your ovulation would be at around 14th or 15th day of the cycle. And that can show up differently to different women. I usually feel super energetic when I'm ovulating, and kind of like super confident and attractive. And I think that's also nature's way of kind of like telling you that, hey, it's time to find a partner and, just feel really good about yourself. And that's also the time of the month that I, for example, really love to work a little bit harder, love to take action on the plans that I made in the spring phase. And I know that you just mentioned that you're launching something in your inner summer phase and you're feeling really aligned and good about it, which I really love to hear. Then or after ovulation, your progesterone levels start to increase, your estrogen levels start to decrease, and you probably start to feel a little bit, not necessarily less energetic, but you might feel like stress creeps on much more easily than in the spring phase. And your body might give you these signs, for example, PMS, that it might be time to start slowing down. And instead of focusing on really like hard work or hustling or really intense workouts, it might be time to just finish projects and start being a little bit nicer to your body and to yourself, and just take some moments to slow down, enjoy the little things a little bit more, and just let go of the cycle as well, because towards the end of your cycle, what is called luteal phase in the hormonal cycle, and inner autumn in the energetic cycle. And when you think about autumn as a season of the year, it's all about letting go of your leaves and kind of like preparing for the winter. And when it gets colder, you just want to curl up under a blanket and just start to, spend more time by yourself. So those qualities very much go hand in hand with the inner autumn phase of your cycle as well.
Yeah, this sounds so beautiful. So basically, it's the idea to move from working day to day to instead work season by season and actually take nature's inspiration, because how the earth, which is a female energy, also works through different seasons. It's the same with us, that we experience these different seasons through a span of 1 month. Right, and I loved how you said that when we are probably, say, in a spring or in a summer, we are like more active and more energetic. And you said like when we are evaluating, we want to be like more out there, be it about dating or looking for a partner, as you said, or probably, I think, applying it even to our work lives. How do you think we can actually apply these things? Because yes, I worked with my menstrual cycle and balancing my work for the last 1 month, ever since I kind of like found you. And I absolutely loved, because I was no more judging myself, I think. And that's so big, because we as women, I don't think we have only started like officially working out recently, as compared to men who have been out and working since forever almost. And so we want to be out there and stand next to a man and be like, oh, I can do just as much as you can. And I think there's this sense of trying to prove yourself, be it if you're working in an office or even if you have a business of your own. I think that's toxic cycle women kind of like can get into, where they want to like prove themselves as superior or sometimes at par with men. But I understand, when I kind of like went through this grasping these concepts and these understanding, that we are unique. And ever since my spiritual journey also started, that like a feminine energy doesn't have to be like a masculine energy. And I think it's so amazing. How do you think, what would you actually say to women out there who are actually trying to compete, trying to be just as productive, trying to really outperform sometimes men in some ways, because there's this dire need, which is also, I think, a very masculine energy of trying to prove yourself, of trying to say, I'm just as tough as you are. Do we need to be tough to survive, to thrive?
Absolutely not. And what I would say is that, if you're trying to be successful by pushing yourself and, going against your biology, going against your hormones, going against your inner energy, I think that success is not going to be very sustainable because it's not coming to you on your own terms. You're going um, by these terms that were built by this society that was built by men, basically. And I don't have anything against men at all, and our society is really beautiful. How far we have come, but I think it's just time to start understanding, as you said, that women are unique in the way that we follow that monthly cycle. And you also mentioned that you had more compassion towards yourself now that you started to follow your menstrual cycle. And it's really beautiful because that's one of the biggest things that I've got out of it as well. Understanding that, I'm actually, worthy of just resting sometimes. When I'm on my period, it's okay to just, have a day off, or just not necessarily even a full day off, but just, not pushing myself as hard. And knowing that if you allow that space for yourself to rest and restore, then you will have that energy to also be super, super productive when your body is naturally ready for that. So definitely just, be yourself and follow your own, listen to your own body and follow your intuition in that sense. So that's all I could actually say. And I know that so many women do struggle with that, compassion and finding that love for yourself, especially if you're kind of hating your period, if you have painful periods and you're just wondering why does it happen every month, and why are women cursed with that. But just starting to see it more as a gift, and when you do start to take that time to slow down, I'm quite sure that also the pain and all the uncomfortable sensations and everything will slowly fade away.
Yeah, I don't think there has been a single girl who hasn't really blamed the universe, really screamed out, why me? Why did you make me a guy? Especially when I was a teenager, I think back in the early days when I got my periods, it was so frustrating, so annoying. The all why? And I think as I have come to kind of embrace more of my feminine energy, as you said, it's more of a gift. So I want you to kind of go deeper there. How can we actually use our different seasons, our different flavors, a different taste of being a feminine energy, specifically to connect it to our menstrual cycles? How can we actually use this as a gift to perform better, to be more productive, to be more creative? Because I am a creative person. What I do is creative. It is not something which I cannot work every day with the same mood. I cannot work. There are days when I'm highly creative, there are days when I'm in a complete writer's block. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and seriously, the last month when I actually started looking deeply into this, it gave me such a great sense of relief, even to that creative side of me, that I don't have to be bursting with ideas all the time, but there would
Yeah.
be time when I'm just going crazy with ideas, and that is
Mm-hmm.
okay too. So how can we really, really, really use this as a gift? How can we plan our days better? How can we plan our months better? uh, or maybe yours, or however, how can we just balance all areas of your life in a much more better ways that we perform better at work, let's say?
Yeah, I think that's such a such a broad question. But in terms of being productive and creative, and as you said, I think that was really beautifully put. That you don't have to be as creative every day, and it's such a great realization to understand that. Sometimes there are just days when you don't feel that creativity, and that's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with you, even though at that point you're probably again cursing the universe, where did all my ideas go and everything. But what let's start with the spring phase, so basically the second phase of the cycle, so towards the end and after your period, before ovulation. So of course, everyone is different and every woman is completely different. So what I always recommend for all my clients is that they start with cycle journaling. So even though I'm, telling you all the different phases and what qualities go with the different phases, it's all about your body and how you experience them. But in the spring phase, just noticing how you're feeling, and of course this can shift from cycle to cycle, but usually, for example, how I feel the spring phase is that I am more creative, and that's usually the time of creativity, time of planning, when you kind of come out of that cocoon of the menstruation phase or your period, and you're ready to start conquering the world again. So to that phase, I usually try to, because I also do my own work, or as an entrepreneur, so I try to usually schedule most of the creativity work to this phase. For example, content creation and so on, because it just comes to me more naturally in that phase. And then I think that's a nice phase to also set some goals for the cycle. So your unique menstrual cycle, not the month, not the week, but your cycle, because your cycle is unique. So just, going a little bit deeper and just asking yourself what is important to you in this cycle. And it might not have to be super a big goal. It can be something a little bit smaller, but just really listening to your intuition in that phase. And then towards the summer phase, again, noticing how you're feeling, journaling your emotions, journaling how your body feels every day, noticing how that phase of the cycle shows up for you. But the summer phase, how it shows up for me is usually that I feel quite energetic and ready to work on those goals that I set in the spring phase. So to this phase, I like to schedule, for example, interviews, things where I have to talk more. I teach yoga in a membership or my own membership group, and I usually teach a little bit stronger classes in the summer phase. It's just a phase where you might feel a little bit stronger, and as I said, confident. So for example, if you're doing a 9 to 5 job and you have lots of meetings, if you do have any control over your schedule, the summer phase might be where you want to organize or schedule most of your meetings, or if you do need to do any representations or anything like that, that might be the phase to do it. And then towards the autumn phase, it's perfect for organizing. So I actually very often don't even plan it, but I just really get this inner urge to just organize everything and clean and be like, okay, what do I want to let go of? And I'm like, oh, I really don't feel like doing this work anymore, or this doesn't feel aligned anymore. And I just get this really, really, really strong urge to, write down lists of what things I still feel like I want to pursue, and what are the things that I really want to let go of. And it's really funny because the feeling is so strong, but that's usually, like, as I said, the season of the year. Autumn is about letting go and cleaning, organizing, shifting, getting ready for the next cycle. So at work, that could be writing lists, maybe even doing some reflecting work on what worked well in this cycle and what are the things that you're really loving, and then what would be the things that you would like to let go of or carry with you to the next cycle. And then when you move towards the menstruation phase, that can again look very different for different women. I used to struggle with super painful periods and really heavy periods. So most of my life, or life when I've been menstruating, has been like hate towards that phase of my cycle because it was so uncomfortable. So for me, I think the pain has definitely been just my body's way of telling me that, hey, okay, stop everything, and just give or create space for that feminine side of you and nurture yourself rather than push yourself. For some women or menstruating people, that menstruation phase might be really nice. And like, I know lots of women who absolutely have never experienced any period issues and, have really nice 4-day periods and feel really good. I'm like, well, good for you. but, but, but anyway, so that phase is perfect for doing a lot of reflection, self-reflection, journaling, again, being really clear on what are the things that are close to your heart. Your intuition might be a little bit stronger in this phase. So if there's something that you, for example, what I do often in my life is that I make a decision, and then when the winter phase comes along and my intuition becomes super strong, and it's like, hey, this doesn't feel good anymore. So just
I
doing.
love that.
Yeah.
So I did not know that even our intuition kind of like switches between our seasons. So our
Yeah.
so I mean, if I come to think of it, winter season feels like it's more of the time to go within, more of time to connect
Mm-hmm.
with yourself, to the universe,
Absolutely.
to your intuition. And your summer and your spring is more like the time to go out, to make
Yeah.
moves, to be more in your masculine energy, if I may say so,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, I teach menstrual cycle awareness also from the yin and yang perspective, and for me, the winter phase is very peak yin. So your feminine qualities, your nurturing, turning inward, taking care of yourself, nourishing yourself, and then the summer phase is the opposite, the stronger yang and masculine. And obviously, like wherever you have yang, you have yin as well, and wherever you have strong yin, you still have the yang, and it's not just black and white. There's like they always coexist, but definitely having that, more feminine and more masculine energies in the cycle.
I love this so much. So I love how you said that you don't have to probably plan or organize things according to the month or the week. Maybe that's just a very masculine approach of how we've been taught to plan on 1st September probably, and then plan for the rest.
Yeah.
And maybe I think so. What you're saying is we can probably try to see if we can start doing it in sync with our menstrual cycles, right? So
Mm-hmm.
one more thing, I think those of them who are like kind of like listening to this, I know some of them might be like really spiritual and might have been following moon cycles, right? And like I
Mm-hmm.
know for me, now that I was syncing in with menstrual cycles, uh, I was also noticing, okay, so there's this moon cycle, so because I do follow new moons, full moons, all the different stages of moon. How do we sync that our own personal menstrual cycles and the moon cycles? Because even we know, even the moon cycle, the new moon is all about setting intentions, planning, visualizing. The full moon is
Yeah.
all about releasing, surrendering, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how like it's also said that some people try to sync their own menstrual cycle with the moon cycles, that they probably I am not really sure if you should probably be menstruating on full moon, and you should probably be in your peak phase uh, at new moon. So do we have two questions? One, do we have to sync our cycles? I don't know if there's any way to sync your cycles, or and second, if we somehow don't know how to sync our cycles, then how do we actually plan our life, plan our work, plan our personal plans, whatever, according to having just now, like we have three cycles. Like if you can understand, we have like three cycles in picture. We have the monthly, we have the menstrual cycle, and we have the moon cycle. So
Mm-hmm.
how do I combine all these three and make a plan which works for me, or maybe not even make a plan, but just flow with something which
Yeah.
is in harmony with all three of them.
Yeah. Well, my first thing would be don't overwhelm yourself. You don't have to be perfectly synced with everything. And in terms of the energies of like the moon and menstrual cycle, for me, the new moon would be more of the energy of the menstruation phase, and then the full moon would be more the energy of the summer phase, like taking action and being more um, directed outward, I would say. And there's like different stories about more traditional societies and how like a woman would have been bleeding during new moon and have these red tents during new moon, and then be in the summer phase or the ovulation phase during full moon. And then there's some stories where the woman would have been menstruating during full moon and then be in the summer phase during new moon. So I don't think there's really right or wrong. What I would say is that, you know, well, lots of women also experience irregular menstrual cycles, but if your cycle is fairly regular, then what I would do is just kind of like tune inward to your own menstrual cycle and noticing, when you're bleeding in the moon cycle and how you're feeling during the different phases of the moon cycle, because it's all about, being aware of your own body and how it shifts. It's not necessarily like set in stone that in the summer phase you will be feeling super energetic, and what if it's new moon and you also feel that energy, so I think it's just noticing how you're feeling, and there's no right or wrong definitely there. For me, menstrual cycle is what I relate to more. So I don't really care in which phase of the moon cycle I do bleed. I did notice, though, which was really interesting, because I did lots of like moon cycle journaling late last year, and my period actually shifted to the new moon, but then COVID and everything, all the lockdowns and everything happened, and now I'm bleeding again during full moon, which is really funny. But yeah, I don't think there's right or wrong. Don't overwhelm yourself. You don't have to be, perfectly in sync with everything. I just think it's your body, and it's not that you have to be, for example, bleeding during new moon. It's just what your body is telling you each different day. And as you said, it's not necessarily, that you have to plan your life ahead. Okay, this is new moon, so I will need to feel this way, and do these ceremonies and stuff like that. It's more so, okay, today is new moon. How am I feeling today?
Absolutely. And, I think you just said a while back how it's our intuition kind of like guides us. And when I started kind of like get a hang of all of these things, different things, and also because I am getting more in touch with my intuition with every passing, say, month, every passing day, honestly, I just realized, wow, I am actually working through that. For me, I think when I understood about how my energy levels are in sync with the moon, and that was like probably 3 years ago, it was such a relief. Then when I got to know about this menstrual cycle phase, it was again such a big relief. And then it also made me realize, like, okay, it is just how it just works. I mean, I did not plan that I would be launching in my summer phase, I'll be very honest, but I did eventually ended up launching in my summer phase. And I actually was, because I had my periods right before the new moon. So once I was coming into spring phase, when it's all about planning and visualizing, the new moon was there, and so I was already doing that. So
Yes.
I think at the end of the day, it is all about listening to what feels right to us, right? You
Mm-hmm.
also talked something about some people have irregular cycles. So I wanted to probably have you probably shed a little light on what is really normal to have irregular cycles, like 29 days, 28 days is something which most of the people consider normal. Are there some people who also have like 40 days of a cycle, or probably like say 35 days, and is it like okay?
So the average cycle, yeah, as you said, is 28 to 29 days. And that is in a way synced with the moon, because, moon cycle is, isn't it like 29.5 days or something like that? um, but you know, if your cycle is regular and it's a certain amount of days every month, that's completely fine. If for example, when you ovulate, so if you ovulate at the same time every month and you're just really in tune with that, that's completely fine. However, if your cycle is much longer than the average 29 days, I would probably take a look at that. For example, just have your hormones checked and so on. However, if your cycle is very irregular, meaning that, for example, some months you bleed at 29 days and then the next would be 40 days or something like that, there can be multiple factors, and one of the biggest ones would be stress from different sources. And stress can come from pollution in the air, your cleaning products, your skincare, the food that you eat is one of the biggest ones. And of course, I know that you also have lots of entrepreneurs as your listeners. So there it can also be the work and pushing yourself and, being really, really, really obsessed with your goals, which can create lots of stress. And I know that I definitely belong to that category. So um, so definitely, checking your lifestyle if you do have super irregular cycle, and if you feel like you don't experience that much stress and you eat very healthily, of course, something to look at is your exercise routine. If you over exercise, that's something that can definitely cause irregular cycles. If you under exercise, that's another one. So just, it's all about finding balance and basically what we always talk about, just having that healthy exercise routine. So you actually exercise, but you don't overdo it. Eating healthy, but don't overdo it. Just finding that balance basically in all the holistic things. And if you still feel like you're struggling with that, then it might be time to have your hormones checked or something like that if it's something that bothers you.
So I've seen that you use something called a conscious collective cycle. Like you have a community of beautiful women who kind of like come together, and I want you to kind of like probably talk a little bit about it. What is it, and how do you think it really has been benefiting women around you?
Yeah, so the Cycle Conscious Collective is my membership group, and it started purely as a way for me to teach cycle conscious yoga. So I teach more vinyasa style classes in the spring phase, then stronger classes in the summer phase, keeping in mind that summer phase can be very stressful time for certain people, including myself sometimes. So also having that also having classes where I help women to release stress and turn inward even in that phase, because wherever there's yang, there's also yin. And then towards the autumn phase, starting to unwind, practice a little bit slower yoga. And then in the winter phase, I usually love to do some deep yin classes to really tune in and especially connect with that womb area, your pelvic region that we, I think, as a society have ignored for quite a while, and probably lots of women think that you only need to connect with that area when you get pregnant, but it's actually a super powerful thing to do and can really.
Is I think another one can have an entire different podcast on womb healing.
I know, yeah. So it's such a beautiful thing, and now we also have monthly workshops or guest experts speaking all things about cycle awareness, hormones, nutrition to support a healthy hormones or menstrual cycle, and so on. So it's just a very holistic approach to cycle awareness.
Amazing. So I absolutely love these questions, honestly. Um, and I think that kind of sets the tone for anybody who wants to dive deeper into this and wants to know more. So where can they find you? How can they know more about it? Are there any resources they can get their hands on? I know you have some amazing free resources as well. Helped me a lot. So yeah, talk a bit about them.
The easiest way to connect with me is probably Instagram, and you can find me. Oh, my handle is Pirita Yoga. That's Pirita Yoga. You can also find through the link in my bio. I have some free resources there, or you can just head to my website piritayoga.com and click free resources. And the two most popular ones would be the Ultimate Cycle Awareness Guide that you also got your hands on, and goes through the hormonal and energetic cycles, especially from the business point of view, which is really useful. And then the other one would be the Ancient Balance System free guide that talks more about how to create a holistic practice around your cycle in terms of meditation and yoga, exercising, and so on.
Amazing, perfect. I love this so much. So, guys, if you kind of gain value from this podcast, please let us know. If you have more questions, feel free to ask them and leave us a review on iTunes. We would appreciate this so much. And I absolutely loved having you here, Pirita. It was so beautiful to actually dive deeper into this topic, which I wonder why not many people are talking about this, but it's so important. And I'm so glad I got to know about this in like my second year of being in business, because I know being an entrepreneur can be so freaking overwhelming when, yes, you are the boss, but it's just that also comes with a lot of responsibility to create your own rules. So I
Mm-hmm.
think anybody who is on this path, I think they should definitely check her out and check all the beautiful things that she is offering, because it's really, 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 really helpful at this point, especially with everything that's happening in the world. Thank you so much, Pirita. It was beautiful to have you.
Thank you so much, Shivani. Thanks for amazing questions, and it was definitely my pleasure.